So Lindsay Shiver is a free woman. She is free from jail and her Instagram has gone private while her Facebook page is completely gone. Lindsay emerged today from jail with pretty long red nails, they look red to me, and golden handcuffs and no wedding ring. She looked a lot different from the carefully curated social media photos of the past, like the one she published on April 9th when Lindsay sported a big diamond rock on her left hand and when she posed with her husband Robert Shiver and their 3 sons. Well, a lot has changed since then. And are golden handcuffs a thing? Lindsay S. Shiver, mom to the Shiver trio with 3 blue hearts, never basic, always extra. That's what her Instagram bio reads, and she still follows her young boyfriend Terrance Bethel. Apparently she is obsessed with him. Speaking exclusively to dailymail.com, this week Terrance declared his own love for Lindsay, and Terrance said that Lindsay's marriage was on the rocks long before he came on the scene. Well, in the previous video we did take a deep dive into Lindsay and Robert's divorce paperwork, and we saw how petty that breakup was getting, with Lindsay claiming Robert was moving money around and even that he turned off her internet services at home. So much stuff. Apparently, Lindsay's family wanted her to end this affair. Lindsay has spent the past several months before being in jail jetting back and forth from Georgia to the Bahamas to see her boyfriend Terrance, all the while her family and friends were begging her to, quote, come to her senses and end this affair when Robert found out about it in February, according to a very well-placed source. Robert knew in February and he filed for divorce April 5th. But his wife of 13 years had become completely obsessed with Terrance, a handsome younger man. I keep asking myself, why did Lindsay become so enthralled with Terrance? You know, just how bad or boring was her marriage to Robert? No matter how bad it was, she shouldn't have plotted to kill him. Is it really love between Lindsay and her boyfriend like Terrance is claiming? Now, if these 3 beat their charges, will Lindsay and Terrance go on to have some long-lasting relationship like that teacher Mary Kay Letourneau with her younger student or something? Terrance thinks this case will fall apart because cops have blown a few heated remarks all out of proportion. That's according to Terrance. But when we go over the Royal Bahamas initial statement to prosecutor for this case, number 123089027, you will see some concerning mistakes they made. But in the meantime, Terrance said, once everything is revealed, you will understand why we aren't saying anything right now. There's more that's going to come out. What's going to come out? Will it absolve these trio of the charges or the crime? Terrance said, go and get the transcripts from the police. I can try. I wish they would give them to us. Terrance said they had both of my phones for 3 weeks. They've been through every single message. There's nothing there. So Terrance is claiming none of us have anything to hide. People are taking everything at face value and defaming us. Well, I don't think so. Police thought they had enough to arrest the trio. But Terrance is claiming, yeah, he's not the reason this 13-year marriage ended. But according to Robert Shiver, the adultery is the reason he filed for divorce. Georgia is a fault divorce state. 13 reasons you can get divorced, and adultery is one of them. And that would mean that Robert would not have to pay Lindsay alimony. So it's no wonder he sought out that private investigator and got the proof. But Terrance told the Daily Mail, I love her. Everybody knows we are together. We are not hiding anything. Terrance said, she's a great mother. I have too much respect for her and her children to want to hurt their father. Well, I mean, it hurt Robert by sleeping with his wife. And what did Lindsay tell Terrance? And these 19 days in jail she just spent, was it enough to realize her mistakes? Lindsay was taken to the Central Police Station in Nassau to finalize the arrangements for her $100,000 bond after spending those long, more than 2 weeks, nearly 3 weeks in that horrible place. Lindsay's bail was posted by her parents. She will be fitted with an ankle monitor if she doesn't have it already now. She also had to surrender her passport, so there's a court date that's set for October 5th. So before being released, when Lindsay spent the those 19 days inside of that Fox Hill prison in Nassau, which is noted for just being overcrowded, violent, horrible, grim conditions. People are surprised she came out with her nails looking so great. Maybe she was in protective custody, I don't know. Now, according to the Daily Mail, Lindsay's hearing was scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, but her attorney, Ian Cargill, must have worked behind the scenes to get her out of lockup 24 hours earlier than anticipated. So I'm assuming she doesn't have a bail hearing tomorrow on Wednesday. But Lindsay wore her flip-flops, her ripped blue jeans, her tight white V-neck, and she stared straight ahead. They walked her pretty quickly from the bus inside. So she was ushered inside. She had her blonde hair, and people were noticing her dark roots tied up in a bun. So she survived those 19 days. What will she get after this, if anything? But Lindsay's family is sticking by her side. Cecilia and Andrew Shirley are her parents, and they are bewildered by this supposed murder for hire plot, as Robert Shiver and the couple's 3 boys, who are only 4, 6, and 10, of course they're still going to have a relationship, a close relationship with Lindsay's parents. Andrew, who is 60, said, "Our daughter has our love and unwavering support." That's what he texted the Daily Mail. And then he referred all legal matters and further inquiries to a law firm in Alabama. Yeah, because Lindsay is from Dothan. The Daily Mail says that Robert remains close to Andrew and his wife, his in-laws. And Lindsay's mom is only 56. I know she looked young like her. So despite whatever their daughter allegedly planned, Robert is still close with his in-laws. Lindsay's parents are as shocked and bewildered as everyone else. There's been a lot of turmoil these past few months, but nobody expected anything like this, a source told the Daily Mail. So that's to be expected. Some people are like, oh, they've enabled her and they've coddled her. We don't know all that, but I expect parents to a lot of times put up bail, especially from a prison like that. He's certainly not going to cut them off from seeing the kids who need the love and support of their grandparents now more than ever. So that part is big of Robert, to still let the boys, of course, see Lindsay's parents, see their grandparents. But the divorce case and the criminal case will go forth. Prosecutors have a lot to prove. They will have to prove that Lindsay, her boyfriend Terrance, and the alleged hitman Farron engaged in some cockamamie plot to commit murder. That carries a huge prison sentence of 30 to 60 years. Now, this is how cops found out. So we know there was a burglary at Grabber's Bar, where Terrance works. You can see him as a bartender, where he worked, rather, in Great Guanacaste in the Abacos Islands. They reported a break-in to police around July 20th. That's reportedly where Terrance met Lindsay. So whoever broke in, this thief had cut power cables and disabled the generator to make sure that security cameras wouldn't catch, the video of them before they went inside an office and apparently took money out of a safe. So I'm thinking, who works for a power company who might know how to do that? Not saying anyone's guilty, but they feared it was an inside job, and so they started looking at Terrance's phone, and that's when cops found all these unrelated WhatsApp messages where he allegedly told his childhood friend, Farron, that he wanted to kill Robert. He wanted to murder him. So sources say that Lindsay suspected it was her estranged husband, Robert, whose family owns a nice, beautiful home in Baker's Bay. He was exerting his influence to make life hard for her new lover. But no charges have been filed for the robbery at Grabber's, so we don't know what's meant by that. What did she think Robert was doing to make life hard for Terrance? According to the New York Post, Farron was wary of his newfound popularity on the Bahamian Islands, and he spoke nervously from behind the door of his new home with his new Mercedes SUV parked out front. I think there's a lot of inference that they might have just come into more money lately, but we don't know how these cars were purchased. But Terrance was out on bail, and he was wearing his GPS ankle tag. He's claiming, look, everybody says things out of frustration and, thinking, oh, these charges won't stick, but we don't know. A reporter approached Terrance as he sipped beer computer and he's staring into the ocean at some secluded spot. You can tell he has a lot on his mind. It's almost like these paparazzi photos were posed where he's just like thinking about the weight of the world on him. Well, it is. There's this Royal Bahamas police initial statement to prosecutors, and this is how it reads with certain errors in it. On Friday, July 21st, 2023, complainant Robert Shiver reported to the police that he spoke with detectives who told him that they have learned of what was a plot to murder him. So detectives told Robert that. Solicited by his wife, Lindsay, and the male known to him as Adrian. So Robert knew who Adrian was. And as a result, he became in fear for his life and the lives of his children and requested police action in this matter. So weren't they already involved? Weren't police involved? What detectives? Anyway, the defendants were later arrested where they were brought to the Marsh Harbor Police Station, where detectives executed a search warrant for the electronic devices on them, where a number of WhatsApp messages were extracted from the aforementioned phones, suggesting a plot to kill complainant. Same was subsequently extracted. The defendants were later interviewed under caution, respectively, and in the presence of attorney Ian Cargill, where they all offered no comment to the allegations. So he's like, I guess don't talk. They were afterwards invited to give a written statement, to which they declined. So nothing in writing, they're not speaking. Detectives received additional information resulting the defendant Lindsay Shirley Shiver being interviewed, where she was asked a series of questions. She admitted to sending messages and photos to defendant Farron Newbold saying, "Kill him," and that she was referring to her defendant. I guess they must mean husband at that point. But, they might want to get it corrected if they're lobbing all these crazy charges if they're true. She was then invited to give written statements, in which he declined. After consultation with DPP, the defendant was charged with the offense that they now stand before. So, thinking of Lindsay's plight when I did a little 2-mile hike today, I thought of Hebrews 12:1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. That made me think of Lindsay, because I'm thinking of how obsessed she became with Terrance, to the point where she put her life at risk to risk everything, her wealth and everything. And I'm thinking, too bad she couldn't just ask God for the strength to break it off, which he would have so easily given her. Now, are we just talking about a narcissistic woman who needs attention on her, or was there something deeper going on? Again, it's out there that she's accused Robert of domestic violence. I don't know if that's true. She's accused him of physical, emotional, I believe verbal too, in front of the kids, and I keep checking the divorce papers. The last filing was, I believe, August 1st, so I'll keep checking daily to see what new pops up in their divorce. But even if that was what Lindsay was going through, no matter what, she didn't approach it in the right way by, sneaking off to have an affair starting in February. And so she's sneaking off to have an affair, she gets caught, and even after she gets caught, and her family and her friends are like, Lindsay, you got to stop this. Well, she doesn't care. She's just going to keep flying back and forth and just seeing this young boy toy whenever she wants because the cat's out of the bag. That's not the best way to respond to a bad marriage or a boring marriage or marital problems. I mean, hopefully Robert and Lindsay had counseling and then maybe it didn't work, or whatever happened, Lindsay still went about it the wrong way. And I wish she could have just had the strength to break it off, to break off the affair and say, look, I'm going to tackle the problems in my marriage. No marriage is perfect. It's not some Hallmark movie. It's not going to be perfect. Marriage is great. It's great having a companion, but a lot of the way they sell it to you as a young girl in the movies, the wedding, the fairy tale, the butterflies, the everything, we know over time that can change. And you can slip into a more comfortable feeling, and hopefully it's tolerable. Hopefully that's the race set before you. I keep thinking of that movie, the prize winner of Defiance, Ohio, based on a real woman. She was married to this horrible alcoholic, and it was way back in the day, and she didn't leave him. And I'm not saying you shouldn't leave if it's a situation like that. If Lindsay's assertions of Robert's alleged abuse are true, I wish she could have gotten the help to get away safely. And every person, man or woman, going through a situation, I hope they can get away from those situations safely. In this prize winner of Defiance, Ohio movie, the woman, the real life woman, she just dealt with it. She dealt with her marriage. She stayed in it, most likely a lot of times for the kids too, and limited opportunities. I think it was from the 50s, set in the 50s or something, but this woman, God gave her the grace to endure the race set before her, and for some reason, then she became great at just like winning all these prizes, all these contests. She got to travel with her family. They won a new car because of her. So while her husband was working, but still drinking and drinking up all the money, and she was able to at least win prizes and get through that. So with Lindsay, I don't know how bad her situation was, and more of it will likely come out in divorce papers and in court. But to go find a young boyfriend, go live off in La La Land in the Bahamas, risk losing custody of her 3 sons, and especially those boys, like Lindsay argued she was the main caretaker of the boys for all these years. They're 4, 6, and 10. So for a decade, the oldest boy has known her as mom. And now, can you imagine what the boys are like now? Where's mom? What's going on? You know, I'm sure some of them have seen some of this stuff online. To not even think about that, to get so obsessed or hypnotized or whatever, it's exactly feeding into the enemy's hands of what the enemy wants you to do. Blow up your whole life, blow up the things that matter. No matter how, if it were just a quote-unquote boring marriage with Robert, and it didn't look boring, you know, compared to her social media, they were traveling quite a bit. I mean, it looked pretty exciting. You see them ziplining, you see them doing this and that and this and that. And if it were just a matter of boredom, if it's not about abuse or anything, if it was just being a bored stay-at-home mom, and we know those years can be hard when the kids are younger and everything. I mean, some women don't get to travel at all. You know, they get to just stay there, and they don't get all the accoutrements and the luxury that Lindsay had. But if it was just about that boring, quote-unquote, time in her marriage, and Lindsay's a firecracker, it would have been okay to just live in that. If that was the race set before her, like running that race, and things can change. Kids grow up. Kids end up moving out. You end up being an empty nester, or they end up growing up to the point where they don't need you to stay home with them. And then maybe life could have been more exciting. You know, marriage can be like this. There can be times where you gotta ride it out. That's what I feel sad about, that if it were a workable, salvageable marriage, that Lindsay didn't give the time to work it out. Instead of continually sneaking behind her husband's back for months and months, and then getting caught, and then refusing to stop seeing the guy. What's going to happen after this? Like, if the charges get dropped, or some people are claiming, you know, Lindsay's supporters, or some of them are kind of vocal, like, yeah, she probably was just kidding, or we don't know what she was dealing with in her marriage, and they're trying to excuse away this alleged murder plot. But you can't just push aside a murder plot, you know? And I'm sure the cops are going to have to provide enough evidence via the phones. They might have way more evidence than we imagine of actual photos or plans or plots. And if not, if the charges get dropped, if Lindsay doesn't have to spend the rest of her life, almost the rest of her life in prison, if she gets 30 to 60 years, I mean, that's a long time. But, you know, maybe it was just about being a cheerleader or being a sorority girl and being the pretty girl. And thanks to Amy from True Crime Sushi for sending me this video of Lindsay in her sorority girl years, you know, just being that young it girl. And so, yeah, having the babies and gaining weight and being in a marriage that maybe doesn't feel as hot as it was before, and all of that, of course. And then meeting this young Terrance guy, and Lindsay probably feeling those feelings again. But I guess when you look at it deeply, it's just shallow because it's not God approved. It's not right. No matter how Lindsay could try and make it right, it's just not right. So I do feel for Lindsay, and if she was experiencing horrible things in her marriage, I just still wish she would have went about it a different way. I feel bad for Robert for having to catch his wife cheating and having the fear for his life and the lives of his children of what's this woman going to do next. And I want to just learn more about what made Lindsay so crazy to just start this affair. Not only that, it's not just an affair, it's just the continuation of it and the refusal to stop. And I wonder if she would have stopped seeing Terrance, would Robert have forgiven her? Could they have worked it out and, just avoided this whole falling off a cliff? Because despite what Terrance is saying, like, oh, the case is weak and people are defaming us and all this stuff, is that just his fear talking? Because looking at those photos, that man has a lot on his mind. So we'll keep it up. Again, this case and many more to see where it ends up, but it truly is fascinating in just a sad way. Thanks for watching.